turn on my computer microphone as well, just in
Okay.
case I lose the video for some reason. All right, everything is recording. How are you doing, Daniel?
Hey, how are you, Ray?
I'm good. So basically, guys, I'm here with Daniel Harris. He's going to talk to you about an awesome project. I think it's going to be a crazy interview, a crazy ride with this one. um, it's not only one project; it's four projects like mixed into one. So I'm gonna let Daniel talk to you guys about it. But before we start, before we start talking about what you're doing now, I want you to to give the guys like your background. What have you been doing? Who's Daniel? What have you been building? For how long have you been into the blockchain? I mean, I want you to give them like a perspective
Sure.
of like who you are. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, where do we start here? I got into blockchain in about 2012, quite early on. And this was just before, in fact, I got in a period, there was only, can you believe this, technology interest in Bitcoin. Because I clearly remember, and I had this huge interest in how the financial equations within blockchain worked. And everybody thought that was just bizarre because they were like, Bitcoin's worth nothing. What do you want about? So, I remember talking to the editor of CoinDesk at the time.
Okay.
And saying, we should do a markets column on Bitcoin. And she said, no one will read it. And I said, everybody will read it. They all want to know about the Bitcoin price. And she said, it took me 9 months of being persistent, every week pretty much to 9 months to convince them to run the first one. And the minute that ran, I think it had more viewers than, they'd ever had on any other.
And that one was what, on the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, this was just on the price of Bitcoin, like, where it's going, where it's been, and, what market, guys, just a market report, a benign market report. So anyway, I had and that kind of developed my interest. I started giving a series of talks all around the world at that point about the financial and economic.
I've seen them on YouTube. I think they're pretty.
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube. The Age of Factory Banking. What's a Bitcoin worth? And that was very accurate. I mean, I was fortunate to work with. One thing with blockchain is that I've been very lucky, and I consider myself massively lucky, is I've really worked, and I don't know how I got so lucky to work with really the best people that are in blockchain. I mean, at that time, Colin Evans, who developed Quark, and I worked together on an equation that very accurately predicted how the price of Bitcoin would move. Yeah, would move, and it was more what I learned from this. I mean, I will say genius, because this is a real genius. He was a really brilliant thinker, just one of the most fantastic minds you could have when you're entering, a space. And so patient as well. Okay. And so kind, and would spend hours and hours and hours going over what must have been the most mundane questions. So,
one question. So, like for the viewers, like at home, are you a Bitcoin millionaire then? Are you one of the early ones? One of the early Bitcoin millionaires?
No, I never bought a Bitcoin or Ethereum at its bottom ever.
Why?
Because, and I remember both times saying we can make multi-millions of dollars to the guy who runs my business in Singapore office. And I remember saying both times we could make millions of dollars if we bought it. And I said, why aren't we? And I said, because I just don't like that way of making money. I've been very uncomfortable with this type of, you're a certain type of personality. I'm a more analytical, innovative personality. I'm not a trader. I'm not an investor. I'm not a good investor. I'm not a good trader. I can't manage, there's a very different skill set required to managing risk. When you're managing capital, you've got to have, it's all very well saying, oh, if I bought here, but you've got to travail the up and down, right? And this is a different type of mind to the one that innovates or maybe is more impulsive and pushes for those extra risks. That same impulsiveness that is very beneficial in innovating is a terrible mix when it comes to investing and trading. And so I have tended to stay uninvested in any market in the world, equities, currencies, or whatever. bar properties. So,
Okay.
you know,
So
because
gaming properties, basically. I get it. Okay.
yeah, I think properties are something that that someone who, even if they're not a good investor,
Yeah, they get it. I get it. Yeah.
you know, they can invest safely into. But you know, I'm just not a good investor at all.
Okay.
I'm a good analyst. I'm a good innovator. I think so. Reasonable. We'll see. You know, but I'm good at
Going to be
contributing
put on test, I guess. Okay.
dynamics.
Okay.
Not that. So no. But I could see that the thing was going to do extremely well, and I wrote a lot about it. And as I say, it wasn't just me. It was that I worked with such outstanding people. I mean, Colin Evans was one guy I mentioned. You know, I had the opportunity at that time of talking quite extensively with Vitalik Buterin, who was
Okay.
at that developing the Ethereum network,
Mhm.
to major criticism. And I remember one guy saying, "Oh, we all know blockchains can never produce tokens, so why is he even bothering?" You know, people,
Makes
people
little
said
sense.
people said this stuff, right? And you know, it was these guys are, to me, very different to their media, to how their media profiles are presented. I found them very humble, very intellectual, and very strong as well, able to kind of take this vision through to the final you know, round. And I really I learned a lot, I think, from them. Roger Ver as well.
Okay.
I learned a lot from, who I've interviewed on a podcast
So
about a year ago.
so basically, I mean, you entered Bitcoin when it was pretty early. Basically, I mean, when I said enter Bitcoin, I mean you
Yeah.
start noticing the
Well,
market
I
when it was.
did buy some Bitcoin, right? I mean, I bought like
Right.
one Bitcoin,
I
two
get it.
Bitcoin.
I get it. But
There's
you didn't
nothing.
buy enough, like, to be considered a millionaire.
No,
I get it. It's
that's
fine.
what I
Perfectly
always say with any innovation. I mean it when I say don't buy more than
fine.
$100.
Yeah, of course. The
I
more than
bought
it should look. I get it.
$100 worth, and I bought $100 of Ethereum at a very little value, right?
Of course.
And the thing was worth a fortune. So I mean, you know, you don't need to buy. So when I say investor, I'm not sure whether you can. What it went to is another question, but
Of course.
I'm not sure whether you can consider a $100 investment.
Yeah,
Investment is
yeah, I get it. A
so
serious one, of course.
yeah.
So basically, what you're trying to build is a new financial system based, I could say, on the blockchain. I'm not going to say on a blockchain, but based on smart contracts. I think it's a little bit more correct. Um, you want to enable trust, decentralized trust, for a new financial system. And this, I think, it's the message that I understood from the whole project, which is, I have to say, it's very complicated, and you need to explain it very thoroughly to our readers because it's not easy to understand. But I mean, the whole purpose of it, it's at the end that people have kind of like a fund that works for themselves and that it will create value for themselves. Basically, like funds work. So explain a little bit more how you plan to do it, how it is developed, and so on.
Yeah, sure. So, like, when you were asking about when I first got into Bitcoin, I remember at that point, 2012, 2013, there was always this talk, right? The big thing the blockchain was meant to do was solve poverty. And I thought this was just the most incredible idea because I do believe very firmly that it's more important than any problem in the world. I believe it's more important than solving AIDS or curing AIDS or curing cancer is to solve poverty. Like, if you have enough, the first thing you must do is you must put freedom and power in people's hands. If they don't have it, they are reliant on someone else. And there is no progress made at any point in history, if you look carefully, where there is no wealth creation. So wealth creation and distributed wealth creation has to be the goal of blockchain. Blockchain is a distributed ledger. That means it's a storage vault that is widely distributed among many people. And the blockchain has indeed created a lot of new wealth as a result of that. So, one of the questions becomes, what do we do with blockchain now? And where do we take on this new technology? And the answer to that, the obvious answer is, well, we distribute even more value, even wider, right? So we get more and more people holding increasing amounts of value. Okay. That would seem to me to be the point of a technology that was based around the concept of money. It's not to make a lot of money for one individual. It's to make a lot of money for a lot of.
Okay, so basically, what you're saying is that you see the blockchain or cryptocurrencies as a way to distribute value, not efficiently but effectively. So you don't want one guy to have a lot, but you want loads of people to have a little.
It doesn't have to be equal. And
It's never equal. It's never equal. Yeah, I get it.
But it does have to be fair.
Yes.
If you're not working on fair principles of economy, then you're either in the mafia or you're in the government, right?
Okay.
So
One question. This is. I'm going to deviate the conversation for just one question. I think it's fine. Okay, so imagine I could argue something like, okay, that is true, but for example, we produce enough food that we could feed everybody in the world, right? But we don't. So it's the same thing as saying, okay, we have the technology where everybody can have access to their own, they can be their own banks, but people just won't do it. So is that a possibility, or what barriers do you
it's
see
funny you
prevent
bring. It's
people?
funny you bring. It's very funny you bring this up. One of the greatest, another brilliant guy I learned a massive amount from him, who I work with, Peer Chemist, who is the one who designed Peer Assets, which is a kind of hyper protocol on top of the PeerCoin blockchain, and also he's head of the PeerCoin blockchain.
Okay.
One of his focuses that he was very serious about, and he's dead serious about it, and he believes it firmly, and he has shown me mathematics that certainly seems to indicate it's the case, that there will be a starvation event within the next 50 years in the world, a mass starvation event in the world. There is not enough equal distribution of food within the supply chains. Basically, what happens, long story short, is you get these supply chain squeezes where there is not enough water for some of the mammals, and then those cows and cattle and whatever start dying, and then further up the food chain you go, you get these all actually at all levels of the food chain, you get all these problems. There's suddenly too many insects, and then enough plants and all this kind of thing. So he as well as designing a new distributed ledger application, he was in fact working on a supply chain redistribution for agricultural commodities such as eggs and milk.
Just by the way, this is a little bit off the record. I need the contact of that guy because I'm doing a research project for Huddersfield, and on blockchain applied to supply chain and the built environment, and that is very important. I need the contact of that guy, I think. But yeah, well, let's move on.
You got it. You got it.
Awesome.
So I would say that you're right in that these are the two same problems, and this is the problems, and it's interesting that the same guys are trying to figure out solution to these problems, and that's why I'm saying that this has to be the solution that blockchain is taking aim at right now. It's not a difficult solution to take aim at. It's a complex one, but not a difficult one.
Okay.
And there's there is a distinction.
Yeah.
So what we do with SynthChain is basically used the enhanced potential of the distributed ledger protocol. So when I say that, you have the blockchain on one hand, being widely accessible by a huge number of parties via mining machines, hardware, that plugs in and generates CPU and all that, and then you get your coins, right? That's a first level distribution. And then you've got smart contracts on top of that, which kind of reuse. They almost, what they basically do is reuse the same CPU, right?
Exactly. But for different things, basically. Yes, I get it. Yep.
It's recycling effect of value, of utility at that point. You're reusing the electricity to generate the tokens, yeah? And so what I went is, wait a minute, instead of recycling the utility, why don't we just recycle the damn value? And I thought about it some time ago. I thought, this is interesting. And I couldn't really think of, a number of efficient ways of doing it. And then I met, again, some wonderful engineers, just fantastic, who these ones have to remain nameless because they work at major software firms and they're substantial individuals. One of them was involved with designing the Ethereum network himself. Who found this an interesting question. We sort of popped it around some late night sessions. You're in software development. It's a sort of 3-day session where you kick it around. And you have a few of those. And we got this idea where you were able to basically recycle the Ethereum that you put into smart contracts. You were so you put Ethereum into a smart contract, it gives you a token, and then you use that token to buy another token in a smart contract that gives you another token, right? Now, at some future date, you can swap that token back to get the other token, and you can swap the other token back to get
the first one. Yeah.
And what happens is just as for the way in which proof of work algorithms are biased towards creating an upward line of value, right? So you get Bitcoin starts at like pretty much worthless, goes up to, I mean, obviously it fluctuates over time, but goes up to thousands of dollars, right? The same way, but what this does is more accurately pinpoints it because it's the value you're recycling. It's the Ethereum within that smart contract that's safely and secure, put in a decentralized manner. No people touching it, no centralized exchange, thieves, same word. So, you know, no people who are running these kind of crypto frauds, putting their mucky hands on it. It's stored securely in that contract. But the point is that what happens is that so many people are playing it. And this is where I must say the innovation is vulnerable. As for all blockchain innovations, it's vulnerable to lack of people playing. So, you know, this is not something to bet the house on, right? Because if no one plays it, it's not going to be worth anything. But if enough people play it and play in small, and that's why the most important thing is people play $10 or $5 here or something like that. Because if a large number of people play it, like with Bitcoin, you will by default, and I put it in 2 white papers in a very detailed manner, and I showed a bunch of other sort of interesting economic effects that it has and ways to value things. But ultimately what it will do is it's a perpetual wealth creation engine for anyone. So that any development team in the world can just put up a synth chain on top of a smart blockchain, like we have. You just take a look at the technology, take a look at the code. It's all in the Discord.
I have.
And you put your own up. We're actually building one on the Qtum network right now. Which we're 2 contracts into. So, but I mean, I've got to get. The engineers are a little bit tired out after doing sort of 40,000 lines of code, right? So. Taking a break at the moment, and they really have been amazing. I mean, we used the best engineer. I used the best engineers that I could find, and I went over an 18-month process of literally looking at engineers and finding, you know, the best ones. And most of them didn't survive the course. The ones that did are really, I feel so privileged to work with these incredible minds. So I developed by very, very strong engineers who I would put my name on and in front of any day of the week and trust. They are really brilliant people. And what it does is it creates. We've done a number of other things. For instance, we've got a contract that feeds off. All right, it sells according to the price of CoinMarketCap's live index price. So divided by 1 billion. So CoinMarketCap is 130 billion today. That's its value.
Right.
So if you've got X number of tokens, which Futereum Bitcoins. Oh, and Futereum Bitcoin is so called because we downloaded all 2,900 days of Bitcoin's price and block size algorithms and synced them together and made a new mining algorithm for them. So you put 2009. You put one of these into the way it would sell is if CoinMarketCap is 130 billion. It would take 130 billion divided by a billion is 130, and it would take 130 Futereum Bitcoins, and you could buy them. You could buy these tokens called Futereum Market tokens, which then mine up to a supply of 100,000 or 100 days, whatever is sooner, and then they swap back to the Futereum Bitcoins. We've developed about 4 layers, starting with ETH, the most simple, which you just send to the Futereum smart contract.
Exactly. So let's use a very straightforward example, I think, so that people understand how all the coins interact. So I'm going to
get complex, and you need to go into the community and really to kind of discuss it with them. And we've got some again.
Of course. By the way, guys, all the links are below. So basically, you just need to click them, and you know, if you want to access Discord and your GitHub, just check.
If you go to the Discord, you look for a guy called Jezchar. This guy is the head of logistics for DHL. He's probably one of the biggest logistics professionals in the world, and can explain it in a way that is far more proficient than I will ever be.
So let's say that I'm a cryptocurrency enthusiast. Okay, I'm not. Let's pretend I am for today. Okay, so I have 1 Ethereum. Okay, so I just went to Coinbase and I went crazy and I bought 1 Ethereum. Okay, I got $100 in the pocket. I went hot into Coinbase, bought 1 Ethereum. So I want to invest into Futereum, right? So, okay, so let's see. I go to, I open my MetaMask. I'm gonna send the Ethereum into, the Futereum contract. Okay, from this
Yeah.
point, what happens?
Then it's going to send you back a Futereum token. So you
Yeah.
better add that on your add tokens thing. Yeah. Put
Yeah.
that contract code in there. Otherwise, you're going to be like, I don't have my Futereum.
No. Let's assume that I understand how everything works. Okay, so I
Right.
send the Ethereum. I receive X Futereum. Okay. Yeah.
Now let's say you're playing Futereum and Futereum X are the same contract, but Futereum X is much faster.
Okay. So, but one question: but when you send Ethereum, do you choose which one to receive, or you always receive Futereum?
Oh, you either send to Futereum or Futereum X, whichever you like.
Okay, so you choose.
Yeah. I mean,
you need to play. So basically, that's okay. I get.
It takes 2 years to mine, but you're going to win a lot more if it goes well.
Okay.
Futereum X only takes 3 months,
okay.
but it's less if it goes well. Basically, you go on that principle again. So you go for one or the other. Depends what kind of, I mean, put it this, one thing I will say is you will get 85% of that Ethereum back no matter what. That is stored for you.
How?
It's stored in the smart contract. And what happens is it takes a 15% portion and delivers it into an alternate Futereum contract, which we sell against another currency, which I've been involved with, called Zircoin. So,
so just let's capitulate again. So
let's start that. 85%, 0.85 Ethereum that you put in is always yours.
Okay.
That means if Ethereum appreciates by 15% between the time you put it into that smart contract and the time you cash out, which is any period between 3 months and 2 years right now.
Okay.
Right? If it goes up 15%, you ain't lost anything.
Okay.
That's the idea. We're not trying to we're trying to create a better distribution system, not trying to profit. I mean, those guys who made Bitcoin originally, right? They weren't trying to profit off other people buying their Bitcoins. They were trying to create a distribution system, and it's the same kind of philosophy. So
I know that part I understand. So imagine, it's okay. So I got that bit. So imagine, of course, you're gonna get the value of Ethereum if it grows 100%. When you get it back, it's gonna be the same amount of Ethereum. So obviously, that bit it's fine. Okay, so of one Ethereum, 0.85 are gonna get stored there. The other 0.15 are gonna go to another smart contract that is mining another coin called Zircoin. Correct?
That's okay. So, no. What you're going to do now is
okay. I love this.
the 15% Ether fee goes into one called Futereum Centurion.
Okay.
There's only 100,000 of those. They're not readily available. Go into the Discord. You can see how to buy them. You can buy one for 50,000 Zircoin.
Okay.
And they receive all the fees. So they receive a lot of different fees from all the Futereum contracts. Right?
Okay, that's the question. I'm okay. So you mentioned Zircoin now. Okay. Two questions. How do you mine it and how do you get it?
Okay. So Zircoin is just a regular proof of work currency you mine on the Quark algorithm. And go to any of those mining sites that's on the zircoin.org website. Tells you exactly where to go, and go to any of the mining. It's on most of them because I've gone and hassled most of the mining site owners. So you just go and switch your miner on and start mining it. It's not got a lot of hash power on it at the moment, so you're going to get a lot of Zircoin if you. It's really good value. I mean, if you mine it, I think you can mine 500,000 a month on a total supply of 120 million. So it's not bad. So you're getting good value at the moment. I mean. Saying that, disclaimer, now that I've said that, there'll be any kind of little increase in hash power, and suddenly the number of coins you're getting per mine goes down per month. So it's between 150 and 500,000 that you'll get on about I think it's about 100 gigahertz a day or something.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
It's not bad. It's pretty good. So it's one of the cheaper ones out there, based on the Quark algorithm, but with Bitcoin type.
And that's Zircoin basically. So Zircoin is the one that it's based on the mining algorithm video.
And half a fork of Bitcoin. It's kind of a weird currency developed by a guy in Israel who's just a really good, another super developer who came up with this great, crazy idea in 2013. So we're selling it against Zircoin because Zircoin's good value, and because I have a lot of sentimental reasons to use Zircoin. It's an important one for me, and I like the guy who designed it, and I like the reasons he designed it, which were not financial. Basically, when you've got that Futereum though in your Ethereum wallet, right? You have another option now. You can go and you can mine it. Now, to mine it, you don't just send it to the smart contract. You actually have to approve the spec. There's a certain series of things you can do in the MetaMask wallet, which you can find out in a Discord, right? So don't just go sending it to smart contract. Now, you have to look up this process because this is ERC to ERC. It's a bit different.
Okay.
So you can't just send an ERC to a smart contract like that. It's just going to get trapped in the smart contract. But it's not difficult, but it is technical. So just go.
Okay.
So you send it, you mine it into the Futereum Bitcoin. Now, Futereum Bitcoin sells according to the price of Bitcoin over the first 10 years of its mining history.
Okay.
So it is a very cool contract whereby, we literally had this amazing developer who just was able to sync the data between the actual the block sizes and the prices.
But how? But for example, that bit I understand. Which contract buys that one? I mean, which contract is buying?
Futereum or Futereum X? Yeah, you've now got these. You get. Let's say you bought both.
Yes.
Because you're supportive. Yeah.
I'm a big one.
All right. So now you bought these, and you go and send. Now, by the way, those Futereums will go up in price over time substantially.
Yeah, I get it.
They go up according to Fibonacci. Mm-hmm. So then you then put them into those two, and you buy some Futereum Bitcoin with it. Now that's going to get more expensive and cheaper depending where it is in the historical mining pot of Bitcoins.
Okay.
Now at the end of the 21 million tokens issuance of Futereum Bitcoins, you're going to get back a proportionate share on a like-for-like basis. So total number of Futereum Bitcoin divided by everything that's in the smart contract.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
By the way, to play Futereum Bitcoin, you can actually use Binance Coin, or you can also use OMG. You can use Bityond. You can use a few others. So just go to the Discord and find out. You don't have to use Futereum. Futereum's just the cheapest way to do it.
I get it. You can use another one if you have another one, for instance.
And that's what's great about Futereum. If you mine it into Futereum Bitcoin, you stand a chance to get back BNB. So it's kind of interesting. So, and we're going to open it up to many other ERC projects.
That's very nice.
The consensus thing is not just one person who decides this. So the project has to show some kind of interest, and the engineers have to feel good about it. There's a whole kind of consensus thing that goes on.
So imagine, how is then, imagine, so each different project, for example, you mentioned BNB, OMG. So I'm just going to take those two, for example. So imagine that you have OMG on the contract, right? So somebody sent OMG for that contract and that contract. So it means that if you mine that contract, you get a chance to receive OMG from that contract one day, right?
Oh yeah, whatever. You will receive a share of everything that's in that contract.
Basically, that's my point. So if I imagine that if I decide that I want to mine that contract within BNB, it means that when people receive a share, that share will include the BNB that I chose to mine, basically. So all the coins that go into the contract,
will get a share whatever they chose to mine as well. Correct. Okay. So instead of using Ether, we use Futereum to mine Futereum Bitcoin.
Okay.
That's basically the principle, all right? Now then, Futereum Bitcoin, what can you do with that?
That's a good question.
That's where you can play Futereum Markets, which sells according to the coin market cap index price that I was talking about earlier, divided by 1 billion. So it allows you to take a bet. If you think coin market cap is going to go up a lot, which I think a lot of people think that it will.
Yeah, of course.
Then it's obviously going to be an interesting purchase at this point in time. Okay. If it goes down like it did last year, it's going to be a terrible purchase. So, we just have to kind of see. So, it can go both ways. But, I mean, the idea is that as the cryptocurrency market grows, Futereum Markets will give you even more Futereum Bitcoin, which gives you all of that Futereum and BNB and Ether and whatever. And the Futereum gives you about 8 to 13 times more Ether if you're playing it right. So, you know, you put in one and you get back about, I think it's about 9, 8 or 9 if you're playing it from the first level, and everyone plays it. So there's a lot of,
Yeah,
there are ifs.
I mean,
This is
there's
the
a
thing.
there's a bunch of conditions there, but you know, but I
There
get,
are conditions are only on volume, right? If we
yeah,
don't, there aren't people playing this system, it doesn't work. But if people play this
I get it.
system,
But
it,
that's like Bitcoin or anything. Like everything can be a scam. Like from that perspective, like in the way that you need more
yeah,
people putting
if
money
you
into.
don't have
But that's
customers,
liquidity. It is what it is.
that's,
Yeah.
that's that would be right. I mean, so really, there is a risk that people don't play it because it's new and it's difficult and
Okay,
complicated.
I'm gonna make another assumption. Okay, so we like on this example, we assume that people were playing, right? So we assume that the value went up. Okay, I'm gonna do something else. Okay, let's assume that for the next 2 years, when I invest, nobody plays. So and the value just what happens to the value? Does it still follow the Bitcoin one? And
Okay, so with Futereum, I mean, it's just going to give you back 85% of your
that's it,
ether.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, so you ain't lost anything there. For Futuring Bitcoin, you'd have to wait till it actually mined 21 million of them.
exactly.
So, you know, you might want to hold on to your Futuring for a bit before playing it into Futuring Bitcoin, only just because you want to see the volume build up. But with
That's right.
Futuring, we tried to make it so there was virtually no risk in playing it. That was the idea. Yeah. So there's really no downside in storing a little bit of ether. And I say a little bit operatively. There's no downside in storing a little bit of ether in the Futuring contract, and there is immense upside, and that should be incentive enough to get the system going.
Yeah, that's true because I mean you can take back your ether at any point. The only thing that if you take it back before I mean before the mining finishes, you're not gonna get anything out of it. I assume
Yeah,
that's the
I mean,
point,
you
right?
got it. It's about incentives, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you're an economist. Uh, this is if you give
it's like a
people,
savings account. You put your money in. If you take it back before 1 year or
it's a
whatever, 10 years.
savings account.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a yeah.
it's a savings account.
Okay,
And a
but
lot of people have said to me they've used it as a sort of self-disciplinary device so that they don't spend their ether
but that's
because they
that's
know
my
there's
point.
trans.
That's my point. So you basically what you created is kind of like a fair and open consensus mechanics for people who want to save their cryptocurrency,
That's,
but they want to save it like in a way that it's not very risky. I mean, the price might not go up, but one thing that's
yeah,
for that in there the price won't go.
the
Like I
risk is
mean,
the
your
price
the
before
price of
got
your
any.
ether within that smart contract is not going down. I mean, the price of ether can go down, but within the logic of the smart contract, it's not going down. That's the
Yeah,
point,
the
right?
logic of smart
Okay.
contract would just
Yes.
give you more of them if it's
Yes.
popular.
So
That's right.
like from that point, like that the thing that I like about it is that I mean your risk is you're gonna lose what 15% because you know that you're not gonna lose more than the 50% like fee that goes into the other contract. I mean you're gonna take 85% minimum. So
Yeah,
the risk that you take is that okay, I might lose 15%, but I might win whatever percent.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
the
a
way we
fair
try
trade,
to.
I guess, you know. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So it's pure upside up
Okay.
until about the fifth tier. After the fifth tier, the mathematics become more complicated, and
Yep.
you might want to do some derivative mathematics on it. Don't worry about that because we're talking millions of dollars away from that point still.
Yeah,
So
I get
no,
it.
I'm not sure how relevant that is. We'll see. But it certainly has all the makings of something that has an incentive scheme. It's, as I say, it's designed technically so competently by really the best engineers that are working on blockchain today. I can confidently 100% say that. And so it works securely. It's been working for a year, one of the contracts. It even swap backs. We've done a swap back test for Futureum X. It worked fine, not one complaint, working like magic. So this thing works. It goes on forever. It's infinite. Yeah, it's not and this is the other thing I think that kind of blockchain has lost. It's almost become this kind of race to see who can sell something with a brand the hardest. And I think that's kind of a shame. You should be looking at, we wanted to take a look at, and we all felt this way. We felt like there were bigger things that blockchain was meant to conquer. And this was a
Then
good
just
way.
like no financial transactions. I get it. Like, something else that people will benefit.
Yeah, faster transactions. I mean, to me, one of the things that people love most about cryptocurrencies is the ability to generate value against their sovereign currency at incredibly short spaces of time. Now, I know that hasn't been the case for 14 months, but that's what they
Yes.
love about them. and we wanted to kind of take that to another level on a technological way.
Okay, but then especially because like the value that you're comparing it against, it will always be within a cryptocurrency. So I mean that's good, you know. I mean people
The
will, you know,
vehicle
look
of
in cryptocurrency,
reference
not fiat stuff.
cryptocurrency that you're playing into it. That's right. We're basically just taking up the idea of smart contracts being kind of currency wallets, for want
Yeah.
of a
I mean,
better
from what I see, it's like you look into like, you know, how the bank like, you know, work, how do they make money? So like it's kind of like more or less, it's not the same logic, of course, but it like technically it seems like it is like, for example, you say that okay, you what the contracts do to each other seems to me like kind of like a quantitative easing, but like, you know, like a normal,
yeah,
like a proper
similar.
one. It's like okay, but it with like, you know, with fixed rates. It's not like, you know, you're gonna lend way more than you have, and then you're
Well,
gonna
it has a kind of organic quantitative easing mathematics that's embedded in those
yeah.
algorithms.
I
But
mean,
and
people
this is
when I
Futereum.
just as a side note, people, when I say quantitative easing, people probably go like a little bit scared
Yeah,
because that's what we're trying to fight. But wait,
yeah.
there's different ways of doing stuff, and what I mean is that quantitative easing might be good if it's done properly. So just so that like if people don't understand, quantitative easing means like, you know, you're gonna lend more than what you have, but you're expecting deposits, right? You're expecting people to put in some money in this case into your bank so that you can balance stuff. But now the problem is that the reserves are what about 5 to 10% or maybe less in most banks, so it doesn't work. What Daniel is saying is that there's ways of doing quantitative easing that works with like, you know, proper lending mechanics. And being an economist, I know that is true. Okay, it's not he's not making this up. It's true. The problem is it's not the problem, it's the risks. Like when you have the incentive to always lend more than what you have, you just like, you know, your reserves go down, down, down until a point that, you know, it's gonna go like, you know, boom, it's gonna go bankrupt because like, you know, just a little spark will make people ask for the money and then they don't have, and I'll like it's a snowball basically. But if
And
it
I could see a day when people develop Futereum like smart contracts and they take a 90% fee. And I
yeah,
can see people going, what? They used to only take a 15% fee. We could get away with 90. And I don't want to get into that
of
game.
course.
To me, I just think it's another game. It's a game I'm not very good at. It comes into that kind of trading, investing mentality. And it's this is just a very basic, very simple, very safe, I must say, product with a hugely accumulative return premium that's potentially attached to it.
But that's what I like, you know, it's basically like, you know, a savings account where like, you know, you get the money from the contracts lending to other contracts basically. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
quite
No,
interesting.
it's interesting because a smart contract is actually the lender.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's
The smart
kind of an
contract is the lender. Yeah.
artificial lender, you know. It's interesting. The smart contract itself is kind of lending, and you're lending money to the smart
Yeah,
contract.
exactly. That's exactly my.
And smart, you know, it's a weird idea, isn't it? Like why
No, but
a
it's
machine
very interesting.
tomorrow.
It's a very interesting one. So basically, what you're saying is that I mean, you just trust that, you know, like that the algorithms are gonna do their things, and like you
Yeah.
just put the money in, but you're not blending it like per se. You're just like, you know, assuming that a smart contract knows what it's doing, that, you know, it will land correctly in the like people put if people put like the assumption is if people put money into that smart contract and more people put money into it, what will happen is the smart contract will manage the money in a way that you're always gonna get more than what you put in.
Yeah,
That's the
and it'll manage it reliably, and more to
yeah.
the point, it'll manage according to a formula which you can understand and see and
Yep.
expect, not through these kind of human money managers that you never know what you're getting one day to the next. And that was another thing that it was kind of designed on the principle of.
Okay, I mean, I think this. I think the idea is very good. If it works, like, we'll probably see in a couple of years if it's still working and people like believe in it. It means that it will continue, like, you know, at least for a couple of more years.
You know that technologically it'll still be working. The
Yeah.
question is, will it get
Will it
that?
have value? Will it have any value? I mean, that's the point of
Yeah, and it'll
like.
have value if there's adoption. So, that's what we're trying to do here. Talk about it as much as possible, obviously, get people talking about it. Although that said, I don't think it's necessary for anyone to put in ridiculous sums.
Yeah, just a little bit to try. That's the point.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And more play them regularly. It's much more useful for us to have a guy who plays $1 a day than it is to have someone who goes and plays 30 grand, right, into
That's
the
it. Yeah.
contract. Because like that's a one-time thing. If you play $1 a day, that counts for something. It's regular volume into the contract. So if you want it to succeed, if you read the white papers, you like it, and you want it to succeed, just pay small amounts every single day into the contract. That would be wonderful.
That's
A
yours.
million did that, I'll be extremely happy.
Guys, I'm sure I'm gonna do that just to try it out. I mean, I don't advise anybody to like to do that. I always do this kind of stuff. Like I tried looms, I tried up firing, I downloaded everything. I put money into this because I like to try stuff. But
No,
just
just
like
relax,
as I
dude.
said, I like to put a little bit just to see. I
I
mean,
mean,
like the looms that I bought, I put a little bit into the new proof of stake plasma, like
yeah,
system that Loom created. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I might lose some of it. It's okay. It's like the Lightning Network when you just put a little bit into
it
it and
is.
it works. It's new technology, so it needs new ideas, new stuff. I mean, just never like never put all your money into that. That's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. Don't it put any
Yeah.
kind of meaningful amount of cash? I mean, don't spend. Oh, I don't know what a good rule of thumb is. More than you would. Definitely don't spend more than you would ever spend on your girlfriend. You're in a lot of
Well,
trouble
it's a lot of
if
money
that's the
for a lot
case.
of people.
Yeah. You want to watch out. So just
Yeah,
small and
but I get
regular. I
it.
think is more interesting.
I mean, I think people should look into this like as an experience. Like, look, so this guy is trying to do an experience. So, I mean, if you think that it has value, participate with a little bit. Don't put too much because it might go south. So things might not work out. As with any project, basically. So, I mean, that's the warning. I always do. We should always say that, and people should be conscious like what they're doing with their own money. But that's up to them. My point is, from my own perspective, it seems like a very good idea to have a completely decentralized savings account. People are very focused in lending and allowing more people to get more money. But what you're saying is a different thing. Is like if you have money, it's not like I need to get this. Like I need to receive because I get $1 a day and I don't have like a way to store my. No, it's not like that. It's a different perspective. If you have a way to get cryptocurrency, okay, this is a way to store it in a way that it works like a savings account. Okay, it's not. It's basically something like that. Very in my very simple terms, of course. Um, it was a pleasure talking to you, man. Really, I think
Yeah,
it was
like
a fun conversation.
thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine, and I hope I cannot wait for the next one. Honestly, I mean, I think the next one with Aaron and Coin Rivet and the other guys. I think it's going to be a different one. And I'm super. I'm really expecting it, to be honest.
Yeah, if you need me
With more
on for
questions
that,
and everything.
let me know, and I can be there in the studio.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when are you coming back to London? By the way.
Well, no, I mean if you wanted to do it even next week, I could be there. Like that's not
Okay.
a problem.
I don't think.
Massive, man.
No, I think like next week probably not. I'm not even here. I'll be in Portugal next week. But the week
Right.
after that, I will speak to Darren like next week so that we can arrange a date. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Let's just set a date, and I'll come to the studio.
Yep. Okay.
That was
Sounds
great.
good.
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, no, I think that like especially because you're not in the UK, man, you're in Hong Kong, so we're gonna take that in consideration. I'm gonna speak to him. I already sent him a text. He didn't reply yet, so I'm just gonna give him a call later, and just see when we could arrange something. That's it.
Thank you, Pedro. I
Man,
appreciate it.
it was great, man. I think it went very well. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so
Man.
much. I appreciate it.
Dude, when I
Cheers.
have the article, I'll just send it to you so that you can
Yeah,
give it
when are
away.
you gonna, by the way?
Sorry.
When are you gonna put it
All
into
right.
the
Yeah, I'm gonna write it during the weekend, like early next week. So yeah, it's gonna be done sometime next week. No worries.
Thanks. Cheers. Thank you so much. I
Dude,
appreciate it.
thank you a lot for the interview. I think it went very well, man. Honestly.
Thank you. Cheers,
Good.
man. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
man. Bye, buddy. We'll speak soon.
Bye. You too.
Bye.